motion has been placed on the order paper for Dáil Éireann. That Dáil Éireann approves Ireland's participation in permanent structured cooperation pursuant to Section 3 of the Defence Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2009. In commending the motion, I firstly wish to confirm that the Government is fully satisfied that Ireland's participation in PESCO will enhance the capability of UN-mandated missions engaged in peacekeeping, conflict prevention, or the strengthening of international security. This is in accordance with the principles specified in the Charter of the United Nations as required by Section 3.2 of the 2009 Act. CSDP is intended to provide the Union with an operational capacity drawing on civilian and military assets, which may be used on missions outside the Union for peacekeeping, conflict prevention and strengthening international security in accordance with the principles of the United Nations Charter. Up to now, however, the European Union's capacity to manage crisis management operations has been hampered by the absence of essential capabilities and the political will for member states to commit to required capabilities for CSDP operations. This House will be aware that Ireland has always strongly supported the development of the CSDP and of EU capacity to respond to international crises in support of the UN and has participated in all aspects of CSDP since it was established. PESCO is also a means of enhancing interoperability and working with EU partners, ensuring that our troops are equipped with the latest and best equipment that training can provide. Participation in PESCO is provided for in the Treaty of the European Union, Article 42.6, 46 and Protocol 10, and was introduced under the Lisbon Treaty and was voted upon by the Irish people. At Ireland's insistence, PESCO's participation criteria expressly stipulates that PESCO will be undertaken in full compliance with the Treaty of the European Union and associated protocols. It fully respects constitutional provisions of all member states, and obviously including Ireland. It is important to state that participation in PESCO has no implications for Ireland's policy on military neutrality or for the triple lock on the deployment of Irish forces overseas. That is to say, the UN Security Council resolution or mandate, government decision and Dáil approval. Irish officials were involved at every stage of the drafting process, and the final text reflects their contribution. At all stages, it was clear to partners that Irish participation was subject to a government decision and Dáil approval, and this is why Ireland did not sign the notification at the Foreign Affairs Council last month, when many other countries did. There is absolutely no commitment to increasing Ireland's defence expenditure to 2% of Ireland's GDP. The increase in real terms relates to meeting the agreed objectives of PESCO, not to Ireland's overall defence budget. The figure of 2% referred to in the PESCO notification solely reflects a collective commitment by the participating member states to spend 2% of their defence expenditure on research and technology. This House will recognise that such a commitment would, in Ireland's case, amount to a minuscule fraction of the figures heralded by some people who seem to be scaremongering in this regard. Deputies will be aware that projected expenditure for the Department of Defence for the period 2018 to 2020, as set out on budget day, nothing has changed in this respect, except that PESCO will allow member states to pool resources with a view to achieving greater value for money with respect to their expenditure. All commitments are entered into while respecting constitutional provisions of member states. Ireland secures the inclusion of this as the Dáil is sovereign with respect to all decisions on expenditure.
As was mentioned, PESCO was referenced in the Lisbon Treaty in 2009. We ratified that. This isn't a new idea. This is something that has been on the table for quite some time. And many deputies in this House have complained and articulated certain views. They haven't had an opportunity to brief themselves properly on PESCO. They haven't had an opportunity to discuss this issue, raise the issue with the Minister. I would disagree with that. In my view, I have had ample opportunity to brief myself on this matter. It's my portfolio to know how PESCO works, what it's about, and whether it's good for our country. And I'm in an informed position, having educated myself on this. I am of the firm belief that it is a good idea. That we want to contribute, as members of the European Union, as global citizens, we want to contribute to peacekeeping, peace enforcement, and ensuring peace and security across the globe. We are global citizens, we do not live in an insular society, and we are affected. And we cannot adopt the approach that these are matters for other countries and not for ourselves. The benefits of joining PESCO is that we will now be able to work with other member states in research and developing technologies across the defence sector. And this isn't about building weapons. This is about building knowledge and building technology in terms of surveillance to protect our waters, surveillance to protect our state, building capacity to work with other member states in terms of sharing information, again, to protect our citizens and to protect our state. We do not have the capacity as a small country to do all of this ourselves. We will benefit from economies of scale. We will benefit from working with larger member states and benefiting from the resources that they have to conduct this research, to develop these technologies that we know we need. One of the areas that was recently highlighted in this state as to where we are vulnerable, where every member state is vulnerable, is cybersecurity. We don't have the capacity or the capabilities to do all of that research on our own. We need to work with other member states because cyber attacks, they don't know jurisdictions, they don't know boundaries. They work across all countries. We're all facing the same threats together. And the notion that somehow Ireland is safe and untouchable, I think has proven to be completely untrue. We know that we're not safe from these attacks. We know that they can happen.
The Blue, Minister Simon Coveney, on the 13th of November, indicated to the European Union that they would sign into PESCO. There was no expectation of that. It was out of sync, and I'm not surprised because that's the agenda of Gael. But it did come out of the blue in the time that it did. We know of this agenda because the agenda was there in front of us in Lisbon 1, the first attempt by the two parties of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to pull the wool over the Irish electorate's eyes. When they rejected it, they cobbled together a triple lock. And I know from that debate during the referendum campaign, both in number 1 and in number 2, that I was active in, that I argued that the triple lock was no more than an attempt to bamboozle the public, and they did so. I believe this motion in front of the House is in direct violation of Article 2949 of the Constitution, that a government cannot adopt any EU decision that would create a European common defence. direction. Each and every step that has been taken in recent years has been towards that. And you need only listen to what the EU Commission President has said, Jean-Claude Juncker. He foresees, and he said this on the 17th of September, so I'm not going back into history, that he foresees a fully fledged defence union by 2025. And in fact, the Commission's infograph, and I can give it to you, Minister, if you so wish, that suggests that might be achieved earlier, by 2021. So there is an agenda, and that's the sequence, and they lay out very nicely for us, exactly where they want to go. So that's another nice little lesson that people can look at to see where and what the intention of the European Union bureaucrats and their representatives are. I don't want the Irish Defence Forces or our foreign policy to be any way subservient to the EU or to NATO, and that's what we're doing. I don't want Ireland to be part and a cog of an ever-increasing military structure, kind of where money is now being diverted from the social fund into military research and military development, and we had that argument here not so long ago. Increasingly, we are going to become dependent on an EU military programme, which will not be at our own control, because part of the PESCO arrangement is that there will be oversight by others of our defence spend. So the independence and sovereignty that we have has been undermined. It is also intended that we will be involved in enforcing peace, and you need only go back to looking at the Lisbon Treaty again, the changes that were made then, and we were told, oh, that wouldn't be one of the missions that we'd ever sign up with. That is exactly the type of missions that the PESCO and the battle groups, you can't use battle group because that was a bad title that they put on that. It was a mistake, we shouldn't have let the cat out of the bag in that way. So I'd like to ask, and Deputy Chambers was there for some of the committee. Well, it wasn't really a committee, it was a question and answer session with a minister, because we couldn't bring in anybody, any experts, including the minister, because he couldn't even answer half the questions. Why now? What is the rush? Why at all? And there were the questions that were asked, not by me, but by virtually everybody, and he didn't give any proper answer. In terms of the EU army, it wouldn't necessarily be called an EU army, no more than kind of the Irish army is called the Irish army because it's called the Defence Forces. And Jean-Claude Juncker said in the past something like, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, what the hell else is it? And that's what it is. It's an EU army where it has a military structure, a headquarters, which, very conveniently, the Chief of Staff of the Irish Defence Forces was being touted as being one of those who would be in charge. Well, he didn't get the job, but he was still put forward for it. That's an EU military headquarters. What the hell is that?
And during the debate, the government's official statement was the Lisbon Treaty does not affect or prejudice Ireland's traditional policy of military neutrality. But we know this was entirely bogus at the time, and events in action has proven us correct. Yesterday, the Taoiseach stood up in his chamber and said, PESCO is nothing new. It's just the Lisbon Treaty. PESCO is not some benign humanitarian force. Its mandate, as outlined in the Lisbon Treaty, includes the requirement for participating states to make troops available for deployment as part of PESCO missions. There's no opt-in and opt-out. Ireland's deeper integration into EU's military system is completely unacceptable and unwanted by the vast majority of Irish people. If this motion is passed today, the fight against PESCO does not end. It seems clear to me that Ireland's involvement in PESCO would violate Article 29(4)(9) of the Pursuant, which states that the Irish government cannot adopt any EU decision that will create an EU common defence as outlined in Article 42 of the Lisbon Treaty. A constitutional challenge is guaranteed, and courts will rule on this matter.
If we go through with this vote, and it seems Fianna Fáil support confirmed today, the government, I'm sure, will look back on this in years to come, and the people of Ireland will look back on this in years to come. At the moment, we crossed the precipice and moved Ireland in the direction of militarisation of the EU. It may take a few more incremental steps after this one, but as the old saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles takes a single step, and this is a significant step today if it happens. We don't want to make this journey, Minister. We cannot be bounced, cajoled, or indeed tricked into this process without rigorous debate. This comes down to trust. The government are asking this House to rubber stamp a commitment to PESCO without a full and robust debate, without a proper committee hearing, and without hearing from outside experts. You're asking us to trust you that Ireland can opt in or opt out of particular elements of PESCO, which suits us. We don't believe such an a la carte approach will work in the real world. Such promises and assurances cannot be taken on faith alone without a debate. 5 out of the 8 groupings in this current Dáil, supported a motion in delaying this vote. But we in Labour were shocked to see Fianna Fáil support the government in pushing this through. The debate wasn't in relation to the pros and cons of PESCO, but it was about giving this Parliament, this House, more time to discuss it properly. And Fianna Fáil voted with the government. They didn't just abstain as they had done in the past, they voted with the government against the amending motion which was put forward by Deputy Boyd Barrett, but reflected the views at the Business Committee in terms of what should happen. The so-called architects of Ireland's historic neutrality stance seem ready and willing to roll the dice on the militarisation of the European Union, and this is astonishing. I call again, Minister, to withdraw the motion. Tell the EU that the Irish Parliament is not satisfied and that we require a proper debate through our Defence Committee. This 11th of December deadline is a false one. We can join at any time, and that is legally the case. Many times the Minister has been asked to justify the deadline, and he has failed miserably to do so. There is no deadline of the 11th of December. We can join at any time, and that's a fact. Reject it and come back to us. If you believe in new politics, bring this back to us, and let's discuss it through the Defence Committee and in this House. Thank you.
The process of this
was deeply cynical. That the decision to sign off on this on the 14th, I think it was the 14th of November, then confirmed at the Cabinet on the 21st. So the government knew, but the Chief Whip did not indicate to the Business Committee, despite several meetings taking place, that there was any intention to put this on the agenda for a vote, right? And then turns up this week, on Monday, and says, oh, by the way, we're having a vote to join PESCO, right? Now, the Business Committee orders the business of PESCO and gives indication 2 weeks at least in advance of something happening. But at neither of those meetings did they give any signal that it was coming up. Deputy Daly, I remember, actually raised the question, what was happening with PESCO? Not a word from the government about a vote. So this was deliberate, absolutely deliberate. And the government gambled, I think, and gambled, it seems, quite successfully, that given all the focus on Brexit and the Russian legislation in the last couple of weeks, that this story would be buried, ignored by the media, and largely they've succeeded in doing that. Let me just read from the EU fact sheet on PESCO, okay? It refers to, I quote, enhanced coordination, increased investment in defence, cooperation in developing defence capabilities. It goes on, the difference between PESCO and other forms of cooperation is the binding nature of the commitments undertaken by participating states. Deputy Chambers, you were looking for evidence? Read the fact sheet. The binding nature. That's the difference, it says. They go on. It will be a driver for the integration in the field of defence. Now, what's common defence, which is precluded in our Constitution? It says this will be a driver for the integration of common defence. It goes on that there will be implementation plans that will be subject to regular assessment. So the PESCO body and the European Union will tell us whether or not we're meeting the binding commitments to ramp up military expenditure and involve ourselves in the PESCO project. Again, it couldn't be more explicit. I quote again, this is different from the voluntary approach that is currently the rule in the EU's common security and defence policy. You want me to read that again? This is different from the voluntary approach. Right? It's not the voluntary approach. The Minister just claimed it was. It's not voluntary, it's binding. Okay? So we are moving into a binding, enhanced defence pact.
This issue was initially raised on the 14th of November. It was clear at Cabinet on the 21st of November, but it was never raised at the Business Committee. And as you know, the Business Committee sets the agenda for the House, normally 2 weeks in advance. No indication of it on that Business Committee agenda, either on a current week basis or for the following week. And then we come here on Monday last to find that we're going to get 2 hours to vote on this particular proposal. It's clearly an attempt to bounce us into this what is effectively a European army. There obviously should be proper discussion in this House in relation to it, and it should have been referred, obviously, to the Defence Committee, where a proper discussion, and not just a tick-boxing exercise we had last evening, but a proper discussion and a real opportunity for the committee to bring all interest before it, and to hear the views of all the various interests, and indeed to look for public submissions on the issue, and to hear from interests like the Army, like PEN, and like AFRI, and other organisations and individuals who have an interest in this area. Finally, Cora, can I say that I'm shocked by the intervention and the support of Fianna Fáil for this proposal. I think Éireann de Valera would turn in his grave.
We also think about the threats that we face, and we can all feel very secure here in our neutral country that we're not at risk to anything, but we are. There are risks manifestly all over the world that could directly impact on us, and I think we should face up to that. And most of these risks can't be faced by one country acting alone, particularly a country of our size. So if you take a particular example of the likes of the risk of cyber terrorism or cyber threats in general, we've seen such a huge increase in cyber hacking, and there's a sense here there's a lot of investment coming in from places like Russia and other countries into this whole area. Computers fly our planes, they run our transport systems, they operate our banks and protect our money, and everything that we need in this country. Our hospitals are largely run by computers. Imagine an attack on that computer system that would grind all of our facilities to a halt. But the reason I believe the PESCO would be good for our defence forces is that another project we would consider participating in is a centre of excellence for EU military training missions. I would argue that not only should we look to participate in this, but we should look to host such training. And Cora, you'll be very aware that the 2015 White Paper on Defence outlined a very ambitious plan to develop a peace and leadership institute on the Curragh camp, building on the international reputation that we have as world leaders in peacekeeping and conflict resolution. And I would hope that the joining of PESCO might see the advancement of the Peace and Leadership Institute in the Curragh camp at a greater and quicker rate than has happened to date, because what that would involve is us developing a state-of-the-art place where NGOs, military and politicians would come from all over the world to come and study the issues of peacekeeping, peace enforcement, and also conflict resolution. And that type of investment that I want to see will enhance even further our international reputation, but also develop an institute of international standing that would employ an awful lot of people in South Kildare, and it would be a very significant investment into the area.
During the Lisbon Treaty, Sinn Féin and others on the no side pointed out that the passing of the Lisbon Treaty would lead to the creation of an EU army. In fact, one of the major reasons that the Irish people rejected Lisbon was because of their very concerns around Irish neutrality. And then we were told that we misled the public, and that Fine Gael and Labour support for a second referendum to be ran. But this time it was supposed to be that the promise that the EU would support and respect Ireland's neutrality. We were also repeatedly told that the EU army wouldn't be created anyway, that it was a fallacy, it wasn't going to happen. Yet once again, Sinn Féin has been proven correct in their criticism of those aspects of the EU, and the establishment party's desire to join an EU army has been laid bare for all to see. During the short debate yesterday, the Taoiseach said, "This is not new, this is the Lisbon Treaty." This is part of a long line of actions by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to dismantle Irish neutrality. In 1997, Fianna Fáil-led government signed Ireland into NATO's Peace for Partnership, despite promises to the contrary and a pre-election promise that they would call a referendum on the issue.
The government and the public should read it in black and white. The notice on permanent structured cooperation, PESCO, to the Council and the High Representative from the Member States, which will include Ireland if this motion goes through. Quote, PESCO is an ambitious, binding and inclusive European legal framework for investments in the security and defence of the EU's territory and its citizens. Quote, a long-term vision of PESCO could be to arrive at a coherent, full-spectrum force package. What does full-spectrum force package mean? It means land, it means air, it means naval. It goes on to say, and this is absolutely crucial, that a collective benchmark identified in 2007, participating member states subscribe to the following commitments. Number one, regularly increasing defence budgets in real terms in order to reach agreed objectives. There it is in black and white, and the government refuses to answer it. And it's not even as vague as it is there, agreed objectives. What are the agreed objectives? The agreed objectives in reality will be 2% of GDP, as is outlined in NATO, and as was outlined in a resolution of the European Parliament to do with PESCO, saying that 2% should be the goal. That's what it means. It means a massive expansion of Irish so-called defence spending. It would mean increasing our defence spending from about €900 million to €3.6 billion. That's what the government is signing up this country to do with the public's money.
The Taoiseach has told us in one of these documents before me that this was all decided in Lisbon. And that we've had plenty of time since Lisbon to discuss it. Now, if the Minister President might just comment on this. The Taoiseach of this country has told us this was done and dusted in Lisbon in 2009. That's an extremely worrying statement. That's number one. Number two, various people have been quoted, Juncker amongst many others, that clearly, and you can pick any quote you like, and some of my colleagues have picked 16 and some have picked 15 and so on. Clearly, there is a will and a desire, and much more than that, a push for a European army. That's been set out for anyone to read, if you want to read it. And yet, the Lisbon Treaty tells us at the same time in Article 10(3), every citizen shall have the right to participate in the democratic life of the Union, and decisions shall be taken as openly and as closely as possible to the citizen. Now, you might reflect on that article and tell us how you complied with that in relation to this PESCO agreement that's been rushed through the Dáil, regrettably supported by Fianna Fáil. And tell us what document has been given to us to tell us what you're signing up to, what you're opting in and what you're opting out of. Because again, I relied on my own research and to the organisations on the ground, and I want to thank them for all their work on a voluntary basis. And I look at the notification on permanent structured cooperation, PESCO. Now, I wonder, did either of you two gentlemen, deputies and minister, read any of it? Because perhaps you can refer me to some of it, because I have it here before me and I've read it, and it doesn't make for very pleasant reading. 10 pages. And so some of it has been quoted already. And let me just quote a little bit more of it. Based on collective benchmarks identified in 2007, and so on, there's many of them. I don't have time to read them. I have less than 2 minutes left. But listen to this one. Aiming for fast-tracked political commitment at national level, including possibly reviewing their national decision-making procedures. Increasing the share of expenditure on defence. It is spelled out in black and white. Now, did you read this document? Is that what we're signing up to? Are we opting into page 2 and opting out of page 3, or what are we doing? And I would have thought my colleague in Fianna Fáil, my ex-colleague, would have at the very least raised questions on the process alone. What are we signing up to? Who has seen it? When are we going to see it? After the decision is made next week? We haven't been told why there's a rush on the decision. Why does it have to be done this week? I can't call it. Ken Fáishin. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say game thing is the show. Why? This has to be done by next week without any information before us. And we have an absolutely contemptuous level of argument from the Taoiseach and from the Minister here this morning, referring to historical and exaggerated, and that we should go and educate ourselves, and we've had plenty of time to do it. Really? This is the most serious instrument that you're going to sign next week, with the most serious implication, in a country where 9 people have been found dead on our streets, not in the year, but since August. And there's absolutely no hesitation in committing millions, the figures have been quoted, it's like monopoly money, to increase our spending, to encourage an industrial military complex, to encourage the arms industry, all in the guise of peace enforcement. You have turned language on its head. I think you have forgotten the difference between right and wrong. I think you've utterly forgotten the difference between the truth and a lie. And you insult the people of Ireland, who have repeatedly, in various polls, told us that they hold the concept of neutrality dearly, and they do not want it abandoned. And if it is to be abandoned, let us do it in a truthful way, with knowledge to everybody. How dare you treat the people of Ireland like this?
The bottom line is that this country has the triple lock. We are neutral, and we will not be engaging in any such provisions, whether they come into fruition or not in the future. The point about PESCO is that we have options, and we can choose to opt into certain elements of the provisions contained within it. But the underlying factor, I think the most important part, is that we can share resources with other nations that are taking part in UN-mandated missions. But I, for one, I was a member of the Defence Committee in the previous Dáil, and while I'm not like yourself, I don't have any bar because in my constituency they're pretty close. And I'm very, very proud of the work that the men and women of our defence forces do, particularly in UN mandated missions, because they have literally saved hundreds of thousands of lives, men, women and children, from a very small country off the coast of Europe.
The Minister spoke about threats. There are no threats to Ireland. We are an island country, we are neutral, and our policies and our plans are all stressing that. And I do think that there will be a change if we do join PESCO. We're also told that Malta has a very small and limited defence capacity and therefore does not intend to participate. Now, Malta is in the Mediterranean. We are on the periphery of Europe, so it's illogical that they don't have to participate, but it's being presented that we have to. The Taoiseach did say the country needs to cooperate, definitely with other countries, but military cooperation is a totally different matter. There's no doubt we need to increase our defence budgets, but surely that's to improve pay and the conditions for the forces and for the equipment. Now, some of the proposed projects from PESCO are military operations. And we haven't been told exactly how this is going to be organised. What is the time frame? What are the guidelines for this? How are we going to decide, because it is going to go through, how are we going to decide which ones we will take part in and those that we won't? And we don't have that, and that is absolutely vital. I presume, and I hope it's not going to be a late night phone call between people, because we saw the disastrous consequences of that in the past.
But I think it's important that we remember that we lived through this debate, and finally the Lisbon Treaty came into effect on the 1st of December 2009. And we are living in a very much ever-changing world with very significant challenges and constantly transforming threats to our security. Cooperation with respect to security and defence will sadly continue to have to play a very much increasing role across the European Union. I was saddened and worried to hear Deputy O'Sullivan, who in her intervention mentioned that there are no threats to Ireland, that we are a neutral country and we are an island. It would be wonderful if that were the case, but sadly that is deeply untrue. We may not know from where exactly the threats are coming, but we cannot blindly believe that we somehow are immune to some of the terrible threats and successful from the depraved minds of terrorists' actions that we have seen across our world and, of course, also across our continent.
PESCO was comprehensively discussed in the context of the Lisbon Treaty and was approved by the Irish people when they voted on the treaty in October 2009. PESCO was specifically referenced in the Lisbon Treaty Protocol to address the concerns of the Irish people and Ireland's declaration that the legislation setting down Ireland's approval process for PESCO was published in advance of that vote and enacted in November 2009. PESCO has nothing to do with the creation of the European Army. Nothing in the treaties provides for the creation of an EU army. PESCO is about member states making more binding commitments to each other to jointly develop military crisis management capabilities for use in support of CSDP operations. The world, which we live, is a very different place now compared to 10 or even 5 years ago. With the formal launch of PESCO taking place on Monday 11th of December next, it is crucial that Ireland moves forward in tandem with our fellow EU member states and plays its part in helping address the complex challenges facing the Union and its citizens.